Hello, today we're going to be working on a 2001 Volvo V70 station wagon. Now this model is equipped with a 2.4 liter 5-cylinder turbocharged engine. It's a low boost turbo. Changing the spark plugs is not a very difficult task on this vehicle, and that's what we're going to be doing today. However, there's a few things you need to watch out for to do it correctly, and so that you're not going to cause yourself more problems down the road. Thing that we need to be aware of is a few things we have to take off before beginning this job. The first thing is the cold air tube. It's this tube right here leading over the top of the valve cover. It goes down all the way to the intake on the front. There's a rubber tube here which leads up to this nice large plastic tube, leads all the way to the back of the engine where it feeds directly into the turbocharger. Now this is a very easy part to take off. There are 4 fasteners holding this on. The first one is located right here. It takes a Phillips head screwdriver. The second one is, well, used to be right here. I believe our predecessor probably already took care of that. And then we have 2 ratcheting clamps with 7mm bolts holding this to the rubber tubes on both ends. So you're going to have this one right here, and you're going to have the one on the very back here where you can't see it. Now the tool we're going to be using to take this off with is actually a really interesting one. We're going to be using a 1/4-inch ratchet with a long extension, and this extension has a special feature. It has what we call a wobbly connection here, which allows some play in where the socket can move around a little bit, and it'll help you navigate the little corners you're going to have to go in through. So we're going to go in through the front, right underneath the tubes here, and we're going to go and take this clamp off, and then we're going to navigate around the back here where hopefully the predecessor has left the screw head available for us to take off. Okay, we've undone the fasteners now with just some little bit of judicious pulling here, and on the back we see the part comes out. Save that for later. Put it somewhere you're not going to step on it. Okay, with the cold air tube gone, we now have pretty much unencumbered access to the top of the engine. The next order of business is to get these covers off. The reason being is because our spark plugs along with the coil packs are located directly underneath. And we're going to be using a T30 Torx head to remove these. And one word of warning is, once you remove these bolts, place them away from your work area. You don't want to place them anywhere close by where they might get knocked into an open spark plug bore. If one of those gets knocked in there and you don't realize it and you put everything back in, you're going to be in for a rude awakening when you try to start the engine. So we're going to remove these, and we're going to place them over to the side until we need them again. And when I have this off of here, we're going to proceed down to take the coil packs off one by one. Now, we've already removed the T30s, the Torx bits that are here. Last order of business is go ahead and remove your oil cap, lay it over to the side, and then this cover should come up with very little problems. And there we have, we're going to reserve this over the side. You're going to need it again. Now, I always try to keep open holes closed on an engine. Reason is you don't want to drop anything in there either, causing yourself to have more headaches than it's worth. Now we've already taken the bolts out of this particular cover here. We're also going to have to unsnap the timing cover here down the back side as well to remove that. So we're going to remove that now, and we should have unencumbered access to the coil packs, and of course after that the spark plugs. Now you see that we have the engine completely uncovered here. We also have access to all 5 of the plugs. I know I did say 5 plugs. This is a Swedish engine, and hence a little bit of a peculiarity in America. However, it's not very peculiar. There's also supplied in certain Audis and certain Volkswagens as well as a Volvo product. It's a very smooth running engine and a very long lasting engine. Now it's a good time, since you have it open, you can always take a look and see how your timing belt's looking, and no cracks or no radial grooves and no excess looseness in there. This is a fairly recent timing belt job, so we're in good shape. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to remove one coil pack at a time, and we're going to replace the plugs underneath. Now this engine has a little bit of oil that has seeped down from certain seals, and we need to be aware of that. We're going to clean that up hopefully as we complete this job. But the one thing you really need to be aware of is to be very careful when you're taking these coil packs off, because of the wiring. You know, this is a vehicle with high mileage. Wiring does tend to get brittle. You want to move those as little as possible and put as little as strain as possible on these. So we're going to go ahead and remove the coil packs one by one, and you're going to see here that these are actually held in by 10mm bolts. We're going to go ahead and remove the first one. We've got one coil pack off of the engine, and as I told you before, it's held in by 10mm bolts. It's actually held in by one 10mm bolt. Make sure you set that aside for later. You're going to need it. The coil pack came off, and you take a look at the coil pack. You see that there's no oil covering down the bottom of the tube, which is always good. Keeps us from thinking we're going to have to replace any kind of valve cover gaskets anytime in the near future. And there's no oil down in the bore, which is very nice to see. And there's their unencumbered access to the spark plug. We're going to go ahead and remove this using a 5/8 spark plug socket and a medium 3/8 extension with a ratchet. Do not use air tools in this part of the job. Air tools tend to cause problems with broken spark plugs and lots of headaches later on. Okay, we have the first spark plug removed. Now if you take a look at the tip of this, you'll find that it's not peculiarly bad. In fact, it's still almost within specifications. The plugs themselves actually say Volvo on them, so they've been in this vehicle for nearly 130,000 miles. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to go ahead and replace them just out of necessity and go ahead and put the new plugs in. I don't think we need to film the rest of these coil packs coming off. They come off the same way, and if the plugs come out in the same color, then I think in the same condition, I think we're going to be okay to say that the plugs are being replaced for a maintenance item only on this car. Okay, what we're going to be using is a set of 5 NGK G-Power plugs. These are platinum alloy plugs, very similar to the originals that were installed at the factory. They've got a similar heat range that the original plugs had, and also they come pre-gapped. All platinum plugs come pre-gapped. You cannot gap them. For this car, the gap is actually 0.28, and so we're going to go ahead and install them right out of the box, and they should be spot on perfect. Make sure when you're installing these plugs that you're starting them off by finger pressure only. And what you want to do is set them gently into the bore and turn them until you feel that they've got a nice even turning. They're not actually grabbing on anything. You want to go ahead and finish them down to where they start getting snug, and then you can finish the rest off with your 3/8 ratchet. You want to tighten them to where they're tight, and then go about maybe a quarter to a half a turn more with your ratchet. Look like this as we go down to them. See where they start getting tight here. I'm going to go to where with this it stops, and then I'm going to go just a quarter more. That should be perfectly tight. You don't want to go too tight with this because this is an aluminum head. If you strip out those threads, you're going to be in for a whole world of hurt and a lot of headaches down the road. The coil pack is simply the reverse. Place the coil back into the bore and press down until it comes in contact with the plug, or you hear a nice satisfying click. And then of course start the threading of the bolt with your fingers until you feel you've got a nice solid connection and no strip threads, and then you can finish the rest off with your ratchet. Okay, we have all of our coil packs back on the engine, and all the new plugs are in. No issues there. If you see where you see that oil that's down on the inside there, those tracks, we're going to clean that out before we put the covers back on. It's coming from actually a defective oil cap. Oil cap's been slinging oil up and into this cavity, and thus going down and fouling out some of the spark plugs. And so we're going to go ahead and clean that out, and then we're going to invest in a new oil cap. But right now we're going to put everything back together and see how she runs. Okay, we've managed to replace everything back to the way that it was before, albeit we've got the new plugs in. We've got everything torqued down to specification. Remember, we've also put make sure we don't forget that our clamps here have to be tightened here, and of course on the very back of the engine. Make sure you don't leave those too loose, because if you do, that pipe can actually blow off, and it will cause you an immediate loss of power and consternation if you're riding with your wife. And so what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and start the engine up, and everything should be great. Okay, and as you can see, we have a running engine with no problems, no shakes, no shimmies. Everything is great, and it looks like we've managed to be effective in our repair today. We're going to take it on a test drive and open her up a little bit and see how she runs. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully the next time we have a video available, it'll be something that you need to do on your car, and that these videos are helpful to you and in servicing your own vehicle. Thank you very much for tuning in. Bye now.